Welcome to the Black Church. This week, our sermon is on Miss Esther, the one and only. I was led to speak about her, and it was crazy how throughout the week, other arrows pointed towards her, which was just more confirmation that I should be talking about her on this Sunday. Then, if you tuned into the podcast or the IG live on Friday, High Society Tea with me and my cousin Brittany, and we were kind of discussing women status, their soul ties or the connection to material or to power. And Esther's story kind of piggybacks off of that same topic. So a little bit of information about Esther. For me, when I hear Esther, I think Easter, Ishtar. So I think of sacrifice or renewal, Easter, new season. When you have now gone through a whole cycle and you are rebirthing into a new consciousness, elevation, and ascension. When I was writing my notes, there was actually a rainbow across the corner of my page. So I wrote rainbow was right here. And that was earlier in the week. Then we have Esther, the book in the Bible, only has 10 chapters. Let me see how many Esther in the Apocrypha has. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's only 6 chapters in the Apocrypha, Esther. And it's in between. I think this is Judith and Tobit. No, Judith and Solomon. So, for anyone who wants to look for her there. Then I was looking for her or looking for more information about her in the Compact Bible Dictionary. And I saw that Esther, book of the last of historical books of the Old Testament, the author is unknown, probably written in 400 BC. Peculiar features of the book, no mention of the name of God. Throughout those whole 10 chapters of Esther, God is not mentioned. And once we get into the story, it might be kind of like, why is God not mentioned? Definitely should have been, right? But that's allegorical. There's no mention of prayer in the book of Esther. And it talks about a Jewish girl, Esther, who became the queen of Persia and saved her people from destruction. Esther becomes queen, saves Jews from danger, and there are several interpolations scattered through the story. In another finding, I found that in the Dead Sea Scrolls, which is one of the more ancient, tangible, and reliable sources of the Bible that we know today, they were able to recapture or recant every book in the Bible except for Esther. I thought that was like super interesting. I'm like, So that means that every account of Esther that we have stands to be false. Every account of Esther that we have stands to piggyback off of that of another deity or another story system or allegorical system. So I think that that's interesting as well. She was raised by her uncle, which was her dad's brother after her parents passed away. So she was raised by her uncle Mordecai, and they were around, or their story takes place around 400 years before the Jewish exile, when they are not wandering around for 400 years aimlessly, feeling like, where's God? Why can't we find God? We've been condemned to slavery. We've been abolished. We've been banished. Where is God? So that's just giving you a timeline. So in this time, they decide that it's time for them to make a move. It's time for them to upgrade their position and their status, and even potentially be able to save not if not all, at least some of their people in the near future. Um, she participated in this ritual because the king of the land um, was holding a beauty contest. Now, the reason why this king was holding the beauty contest is because he had thrown two parties that lasted 189 days long. And on the last day of the party, and he wasn't celebrating anything except for how great he was. It wasn't the sun, the moon, God. It was because he was great. So on the final day of the 187-day parties, he wanted his wife, who was the baddie in the kingdom, to come and basically exploit herself, come dance, come show off her beauty. And her name was Vishnu. And Vishnu was like, I'm not going, I'm not participating in that, I'm the queen. And so he got mad, he threw a temper tantrum. He said, well, fine, since my woman doesn't want to obey me, I'll make a rule that every man in the kingdom is the ruler of his home, and every woman has to obey the man of their house. And I'm going to hold a beauty contest for me to find another bad bitch that's actually going to do what I wanted her to do. I immediately got Flavor of Love vibes. 187-day party, two parties that last 187 days. Aren't they in the Flavor of Love house for about 187 days? Flavor of Love has his pick of bad bitches of which ones he wants to come and exploit, which ones he wants to perform for him, and the ones that want to deny and say, oh, I don't want to do it. Okay, girl, well, you'll get replaced in just a couple more days by somebody else, and the story will keep going on. So Esther and her cousin or her uncle hear that the story that they are about to have a beauty contest and that she needs to be part of it. Now, every participant in the beauty contest has to participate in a ritual that is 12 months long. And in those 12 months, of those 12 months, 6 of those months have to be contributed to consistently being cleansed in frankincense and myrrh, different type of oils, perfumes, and really just getting into your beauty. And again, this is a year-long ritual before you can ever even present yourself to the king. Well, Esther did it. And in her time of taking that, doing everything she was supposed to, all of the concubines liked her. The eunuchs, they all liked her. She was the favorite among the harem. They all approved of her. So when it was time for her to go and be seen in front of the king, now the king is looking at her like, well, who is this with the bells and whistles? I mean, you can just imagine if the eunuch, who is the chamber maiden, we've talked about that before. If you go back and you listen on my podcast, um, um, I think it was last summer, and we talked about the eunuchs and how they would have different ranking positions in the kingdom. So now the eunuchs are saying that she's the best and she's the baddest. So they're serving her first. She had her own maid. She's a concubine with her own maid. They're serving her first. They're cleaning her. They're washing her hair. They're making that she just looks the best. She looks the part. She is fit for queen. So the king is able to see that when he sees her. So he chooses her. She gets chose. She gets the Flavor of Love grill. And he chooses her. Okay. So she's sitting in her position of power. She's sitting pretty. Mordecai, her uncle, is feeling like, okay, we kind of we made the right move at this point. And then Mordecai gets elevated to a different position because he knows her and she's related to him. Well, Mordecai overhears Haman, which is one of the king's homeboy's sons. So the king put one of his homeboy's sons in position because of loyalty to the homeboy. But the son, Haman, is actually an op, and he's coming to try to destroy the kingdom. And he's going to kill all the Jews. He's decided that once he gets in his position, he's going to kill all the Jews. And the king has already upgraded him. The king has told everybody he's like the king. He's the last of the Canaanites, or king of the Canaanites. And the king goes and tells everybody, y'all make sure that y'all pray to him. Y'all bow to him just how y'all would have done for me. Well, in that time frame, Mordecai overhears that Haman's going to try to kill all the Jews. Well, keep in mind, Mordecai is a Jew and Esther is a Jew. So he's like, no, I got to go. We got to go put a stop to this because this is our people. So Mordecai goes and tells Esther, yo, this is what I heard. And she's like, what? I'm about to tell the king. So she tells the king, and the king is like, bet, I'm going to have Haman's head. Keep in mind, he just elevated this dude to this position. He just was like, oh, no, he's so great that y'all need to bow to him when y'all see him. Bow down to one nigga that is greater than you. Bow down. Like, he just said this. And within the same breath, mark his ass. Oh, he's trying to off us. He's trying to off the people who I'm with. Then we'll mark him. So, um, Haman is ordered to be killed, but this is when it kind of gets murky. Now, in betwixt, before Haman is um, found out, Haman has gone and told the uh, king that Mordecai is not who he seems to be, right? So the king is like, I want Haman to build a stake, like a big tall stake, and we're going to kill or impale Mordecai on this stake for trying to betray us. And so Haman goes and he builds it, and I think it takes him a few days, and he gets it done. And his whole plot. This story is really all about how like a hater can never take your place, and that even when it seems like God, because remember God's not mentioned in Esther the whole book, even when it seems like God is quiet or God is not there, God is really moving and working for you, right? So Haman the hater is trying to set up not only just the demise for Mordecai, but the demise for the entire Jewish people. And he's gotten close enough to the king for the king to believe his bullshit, right? So Esther and Mordecai decide that the only way that they'll be able to save not only Mordecai but the rest of the Jewish people is for Esther to spill her tea. Now keep in mind, Esther is a Jewish woman pretending to be Persian in the efforts of power. Now, the reason why I was saying that like this can kind of piggyback off of Soul Ties, what we talked about on High Society Tea, is leading up to this moment, you don't necessarily know why Esther is hoping to be chose by this king, other than for maybe selfish reasons. She wants to be taken care of. She wants to not have to worry about food and shelter and finances, and she wants the fineries of the world. You don't really know leading up to this point if she's trying to do it for a selfish reason or for a collective reason. So in these moments, not to mention in Esther and the Apocrypha, she does two rituals. So in the normal book or in the book of Esther in the Bible, she does a ritual from, I think it's Esther 2:12. So give me 1 second. Esther, because this is when I believe that he comes and tells them. Okay, no, that's the ritual that she does to be seen. That she does it for a year, and then when she finds out that Mordecai or that they're gonna try to kill the people, and Haman says that he wants them. He's gonna kill them on the 13th day of the month, like on the 13th day of the first month. He's going to kill them. So that gives her a little bit of time. But I'm trying to look exactly for the ritual that she does for 3 days, because she says, go tell the people to fast. Give me 1 second. Esther 4:16. Go gather together all the Jews who are in Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day, and I and my attendants will fast as you do. When this is done, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. So for 3 days, Esther prepared not only herself, but her people so that she could go and talk to the king that was going to be in charge of their fate. But in that 3-day fast, that's when she's preparing her altar. She's preparing her temple, her consciousness. Now that the energy is being purified. I'm not sure of everyone's spiritual beliefs and practices, but many times in spiritual ailments, you will fast for 3 days. That spirit will have nothing to feast on for 3 days, and it will leave your presence. You will lift the energy consciousness. You will shift the energy of the room and in your environment of your temple by fasting for 3 days. So she's telling them, y'all fast for 3 days, we'll fast for 3 days, and I'm going to go talk to the king, even though it may seem wrong or it's wrong at this time. So that's before she goes and she has her parties. Now, keep in mind, the king started out with his 2 parties where he chose her. But now Esther then got hit to the game and she's going to have 2 parties. But in Esther, in the Apocrypha, Esther also does a ritual, which is where she says in chapter 14 that, I'll just read it. Queen Esther, also being in fear of death, resorted unto the Lord, and laid away her glorious apparel, and put on the garments of anguish and mourning, and instead of precious ointments, she covered her head with ashes and dung, and she humbled her body greatly, and all the places of joy she filled with her torn hair. Then she prayed unto the Lord of God of Israel, saying, O my Lord, thou only art our king. Help me, desolate woman, who have no helper but thee, for my danger is in mine hand. From my youth I have heard in the tribe of my family that thou, O Lord, tookest Israel from among all people, and our fathers from all their predecessors for a perpetual inheritance, and thou hast performed whatsoever thou did promise to them. And now we have sinned before thee. Therefore hast thou given us to the hands of our enemies, because we worship their gods. O Lord, thou art righteous. Nevertheless, it satisfied them not, in that we are in bitter captivity, but have been stricken by the hands of their idols. So she's going on and kind of like having this grievance with God, with like, I'm so sorry that me and my people did not listen. And, it says that you know our highest necessity and what is in our head. And she said, I abhor as a mistress rag that I wear it not when I am private by myself. Like being sent away by God or betraying God and not hearing and not being heard by God is worse than a laborious menstrual cycle. Having to be with your pad, or back in the day, being in the home, like you can't even go out into the world and let people know you are on your cycle. So you're kind of going through this struggle by yourself. She said, I won't even let my handmaid eat from the table of our enemies. And then on the third day, in chapter 15, when she had ended her prayer, she laid away her mourning garments and put on her glorious apparel. And being gloriously adorned, after she had called upon God, who is the beholder and Savior of all things, she took 2 maids with her. And upon the one she leaned as carrying herself daintily, and the other one followed, bearing up her train. And she was ready through the perfection of her beauty, and her countenance was cheerful and very amiable, but her heart was in anguish for fear. Then, having passed all the doors, she stood before the king, who sat upon his royal throne, and was clothed with all of his robes of majesty, and glittering with gold and precious stones, and he was very dreadful. Then, lifting up his countenance that shone with majesty, he looked very fiercely upon her, and the queen fell down and was pale and fainted, and bowed before her, bowed herself upon the head of the maid, and went before her. Then God changed the spirit of the king into mildness, who in a fear leaped from his throne and took her into his arms till she came to herself again, and comforted her with loving words, and said unto her, Esther, what is the matter? I am thy brother. Be of good cheer. Thou shalt not die. Thou, though our commandment be general, come near. And so she held up his gold scepter and laid it on her neck, and embraced her, and said, Speak unto me. Then she said unto him, I saw thee, my Lord, as an angel of God, and my heart was troubled for fear of majesty. For wonderful art thou, Lord, and thy countenance is full of grace. And as she was speaking, she fell down for faintness. Then the king was troubled, and all of his servants comforted her. Now, I led with saying that in the original Esther in the Bible, God is not mentioned. In the Apocrypha, God is mentioned. Then God changed the spirit of the king into mildness, and fear leaped from his throne. Because she had been diligent for 3 days, and she did her ritual, and she got her people on board with doing her ritual. And I like how it depicts how, in order to get in her position, she wore all her finery and her perfumes, and she got her hair done, and she smelled good, and she looked the part, and she was, razzle dazzle when she walked into the room. And she did that ritual. She did her beauty ritual. That's why the name of this sermon is Beauty Alchemy. She did her beauty ritual, her beauty alchemy, to get in the position of power that she was in. only for her to get into that position of power and realize that that position of power held more weight than she initially had maybe signed up for. Even in the book Esther in the Bible, her uncle Mordecai says, well, hell, for all we know, you're becoming queen to save the Jewish people. Like, this is the reason why you became queen. So, like I said previously, prior to that moment, we didn't know that she was going to save the people. She was getting married for an individual come up. She was getting married so she could get chose. She wanted to be New York. She wanted her own spinoff show. She wanted to be, that bitch in the land. It had nothing to do with her people. Only then to get in that position and see that, oh shit, I cannot be up here. My people are about to be annihilated. And it also says in the book in Esther, the Bible, um, he says, but don't think just because you're a Jew that's married to the king that you're going to be safe from being slain. He's going to kill all of us. Every Jew is going to be slain. Therefore, we need you to do your part, Esther. So Esther has a party. And her party is 2 days long. And at the first party, it's kind of like everybody is there. But at the first party, she invites them to a second party. And by them, I mean the king and Haman. She invites them to a second party. And at the second party is where she reveals that she's actually Jewish. So is Mordecai. And Haman, the king's right hand man, has actually been plotting to kill every Jewish person in the kingdom and causes uproar after he got into his position of power. So then the king was upset about that and called for Haman to be killed by the stake that he had built for Mordecai. So just imagine you set a plot or a plan for someone for failure and you end up falling into the exact same plot and plan. And that's a testament to a lot of energy workers and a lot of things that happen when you try to wish bad or push bad off on somebody. It will get stuck on your shoe. That's why you don't ever spit gum on the regular ground, because you will eventually get that gum stuck on the bottom of your shoe and be stuck to that situation. So Haman was killed by the same stake that he had built for Mordecai. Then they killed Haman's entire family. Haman, remember I said, wanted the all of the Jews to be killed on the 13th day of the 12th month. And I think it was called Pur, Pur, which are actually dice. So it's kind of like the roll of the dice. Whenever you see in the Bible, they casted lots, they are casting dice. That's how they also did their mancies, their necromancies, their cartomancies, the way that they read energy. So it's kind of like he rolled the dice and cursed a whole generation only for that dice to be reflected, to kind of be dummy dice and end up killing him on that same day and killing his family on that same day. And so then there was a party thrown for Esther and Mordecai for saving the Jewish people. It started on the 12th, and I don't think it ended until the 15th. I'm not sure if they have that celebration today. I'm sure they do. I'm not sure what the name is. If you do know what it is, drop it in the comments. I'm always open to knowing and learning about things. But the moral of this story is stay true to your soul, your beliefs, and your practices. Be willing to climb that ladder, and be willing to apply your privilege where it is necessary. You may go in with a selfish intent, but you need to maybe um, be open to the possibility of your existence, your part in that story being the pivot for other people in your life or other people who are maybe to come behind you. It's also a testament that when a hater tries to set a trap for you, God always got your back. God is always going to change these people, change their minds, especially if you are blessed and highly favored. And I know this may be a little controversial, but everybody's not blessed and highly favored. Not everybody is. And that can also be attributed to the work of some people's ancestors. Some people had praying, God fearing. We know who the most high energy is. We know that, God and Goddess walk with us and walk through us. And they have been doing this for generation after generation after generation. So therefore, it has been infused into the generation. Therefore, just like the story of David, the story of Moses, they are told that if they do what is necessary, if they are doing what God tells them to do, their elders, their descendants will come after them and never have to worry about anything. Their descendants will always be covered. Their descendants will walk into kingdoms. And it's not to say that their descendants will never have any obstacles or any hiccups or anything, but it's just to say that their people did the work for them. Therefore, they will be covered. You know, like Deuteronomy 28, 1 through 14. I don't know exactly which verse it is, but it's like, do what you are instructed to do, and God will bless you coming in, bless you going out. Bless your baskets, bless your fish nets, bless your land, bless your children, bless your children's children. And that's where it comes in being blessed and highly favored. So it's like some people make sacrifices or are forced to make sacrifices and heavy sacrifices because it is their just due. You have to do that work. You have to allow yourself to be that sacrificial lamb or tool for your bloodline, for you to elevate, so that your presence, again, your presence in the position can actually hold some weight, wherein some people's bloodline has already done it. They've already done it, and they are already settled into position where, like Esther, she got chose, and she got, initially it may seem like she was a sacrificial lamb. Initially it may seem like she was doing it for individual independent reasons. Then it may have seemed like, oh shit, no, you actually got married and you the sacrificial lamb. But at the end of the day, her whole family is going to be taken care of. Just like Rahab. That's one of my stories, and my favorite stories in the Bible. Rahab was a prostitute, and it kind of in the right place at the right time, but the entire city had looked down on her. But because she was in the right place at the right time, help hide some niggas that was actually some ops in the city, her whole family and every other person who was in her harem was taken care of for the rest of their life, blessed and highly favored. You just never know. That's why, again, a hater can have a plan for you that you don't even know is in the making or brewing for you. But the plan that the Most High has for you, that your ancestors been already devised for you, is superseding that in such great volumes that you need not worry. You need not worry, and you need not sway or fret from what your work may be or what you think that your reward may be. Just keep going and keep having faith, and your Most High Goddess will provide you the energies and the alignment to climb to the top floor and spit on bitches. Literally. Literally think you gonna kill me in my own land. She said, okay, I'll do the ritual to be bad. I'll do the ritual to get in position. And I think a lot of that also is the journey's not always pretty, right? So that's why sometimes it's necessary for you to come about them fineries. It's necessary for you to strip yourself down to nothing, bare face, no earrings, no nothing. God, I come to you as humbly as I know how. I want you to bless my mind. I want you to bless my energy and help me to be in alignment with where I need to be, and how I need to get there. I've been seeing on TikTok that they've been talking about the Esther ritual, and what's crazy is no one has really gone into detail about what it is, and people are like, oh, I did it and I got a breakthrough. But remember, it's not always going to be financial. It's not always going to be tangible. A lot of times this is going to be an internal thing, um, that is all about your ascension and your upgrade and the understanding of the duality of your life. That some parts of you are going to, or some parts of your life are going to require for you to get cute, for you to get in position, and some parts are going to prepare you for war. Be ready for both. Y'all have a great week. Holla back.